connected to our friends in this, and you don't need to look that far to see. In an instant, it's all rushing by. You risk it all to set them free. Seems like time and again, and time and again must be destiny.
Hello, everyone. This is Pendy.
And this is Paul, also known as Eastex Twitch.
You know, I've started to count all the times you've said cringe for all the ideas I come up with for this show.
The fact that you do that is pretty cringe.
See? That's number 11 right there. Anyway, how about this for an opening? We pretend we're in a duel like in these recent episodes of Dai we just watched.
I don't know, man. That seems pretty cringy to me.
Number 12.
I've got an even better opening, and that's welcoming everyone to Alltrades DQ Media Abbey, a Slime Time podcast spin-off where we review various Dragon Quest media, including manga and anime.
We are currently reviewing the 2020 Dragon Quest The Adventure of Dai anime and the Dragon Quest X tie-in manga, Rooming with a Gamer Gal. We'll start with Dai first, so let's trash it up.
And this week we are discussing episode 81, The Battle in the White Garden. In this episode, Larhart explains that Baron's blood brought him back to life. He metaphorically kills Hyunkel and takes back his dark armor spear. In the White Garden, Yvonne returns with Leona to help confront Mistfern after having cleared the traps ahead. Yvonne challenges Mistfern, but is unexpectedly dragged into an unknown realm by a scythe. This realm is a special pocket dimension used for duels that Kilvern set up to challenge Yvonne to a duel. Man, the loser will be beheaded by the mechanical creature called the Judge that oversees the fight, and that's not very fun. The fight begins, and Yvonne is surprised that Kilvern has chosen to use a rapier rather than a scythe. What do you know? As the episode ends, Kilvern has drawn first blood against Yvonne.
This episode is more setup than anything else, but it has some interesting moments. I love the goofy trap-finding glasses that Yvonne shows off. It is also interesting how Kilvern switches to a sword or rapier in this duel with Yvonne. You know his fight won't be fair and square, so it'll be interesting to see what treachery Kilvern has in store. And the Judge describing how Yvonne gets damaged for 65 HP is a fun little gaming touch. Now, I remember in my first watch through of the series that I was confused in this episode about Hyunkel. They make this big deal about Larhart metaphorically killing him so that he can use the dark armor spear again, but then Heem gives the impression that he died, or at least that's the impression I got. Of course, he's not dead though, he's just resting. That's what Heem means, that Hyunkel finally gets a break from all this constant fighting, not a break from life. I also thought the concept of Baron's blood not having a 100% chance of reviving anyone was intriguing. Basically, it's Zing blood, which I thought was cute. And it sometimes apparently works very slowly, as Larhart just revived a few days ago. Lastly, I appreciated the moment between Leona and Yvonne. Leona was just going to try and interfere or go in after Yvonne when the Judge starts to pull him away, but he gave her a knowing look to stay behind and help the others. Instead of letting her emotions get the better of her, Leona is able to restrain herself.
She's a champ. It's good of Larhart to explain how he came back to life. I'm glad that his resurrection ties into how Pop came back, rather than the author coming up with yet another reason for someone to resurrect. It's been established. There is precedent. On the other hand, I dislike how Larhart starts getting brusque with Hyunkel and then does the symbolic execution thing. It's just a weird fake out that accomplishes nothing other than leaving the audience confused about what Hyunkel's status is for a little while. But like, wow, way to go, I guess. On the other hand, Him's final reaction is pretty funny. Talking to himself about Larhart, he says, I'm going to have to kick his butt someday too. That's the spirit, Him. Crocodile, Chu, and Brokina, Chu's master, arrive and find Him with the sleeping Hyunkel. And again, they keep acting like he's dead for some reason, but I'm glad they're there. I also enjoy Yvonne's Sea Peril glasses, as the item is called. He found it in the Cave of Trials, so he has gained more from that experience than just the one technique we saw before. Also, the Sea Peril glasses appear to have been created for the Dai series. Sea Peril doesn't seem to be a Dragon Quest spell or anything.
Yes, there's a spell where you can tell whether a treasure chest is a mimic or not, or cannabox or whatever, but something that specifically looks for traps like that, not so much. Especially not glasses.
Yeah, and it's not called the same thing, right?
No.
There you go. Dragon Quest X and Dragon Quest of the Stars, the mobile game, do have equipable glasses, but most of the games in the series don't have them. So this is just mostly a unique thing for Dai, especially because Dai predates those two games. I was annoyed when Kilvern pulled Yvonne into the other realm because I wanted to see Yvonne deal with Mistfern. On the other hand, the Judge of the duel is an interesting inclusion. It looks pretty silly, even though it's supposed to be scary, but appearance aside, the Judge reminds me of the judges in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, classic Game Boy Advance game. Those guys would create arbitrary rules for each battle, and I think they returned in Final Fantasy XII as well.
And I hated the judges. I loved the first Final Fantasy Tactics game, but the ones afterwards, not so much.
Gotcha.
The next episode is episode 82, The Successor of Justice. With Yvonne having disappeared, Dai charges Mistfern for an attack. In the middle of the charge, he and Mistfern are stopped by the power of a silver feather from Leona. She explains that Dai charging Mistfern is what the enemy wants so that he can defeat or weaken Dai before he reaches King Vern. Meanwhile, Kilvern tries for a killing blow on Yvonne, but he counters with an Yvonne strash, surprising Kilvern with how much damage it does. Yvonne explains that he knew something like this might happen and that he's much stronger than Kilvern thought he was. He was kind of faking his strength before, or lack of strength. Back in Vern Palace, Leona takes charge of the party and convinces Dai that he must head on while Pop and Mam keep Mistfern busy. Mistfern is convinced that he can take on both of them and get Dai to come back. He resists Pop and Mam's attacks, getting them both in a stranglehold. Dai starts to rush back, but then suddenly, Mistfern is struck by a Thunderclaw attack. We end there with Larhart's arrival.
This episode has an interesting title, The Successor of Justice. Is it a weird Japanese way to refer to the winner of the battle or something? No, it means that Leona is Yvonne's successor. She is in charge of the team while Yvonne is away. That's good because Dai's team is noble but kind of dumb.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, God, somebody gives them a strategic order and they're just like, no, we're not going to do that. You know, it's goofy.
Charge!
Yeah,
Leroy Jenkins!
Exactly. That's perfect. Yeah, the concept of splitting up to deal with the challenges just drives Dai crazy. He cannot think tactically. Oh, Dai. Leona finally gets him in line, but then he still turns back later. So Dai is like a manager who doesn't trust his team to complete tasks without him. You know, he's micromanaging, I guess. Anyway, Leona's the smartest one, so I like her. Pop and Mom do immediately get grabbed, like saps, so it's a good thing that Larhart comes along. I'm glad that Yvonne gets a good hit in on Kilvern back in that part, but that's all we're going to see of their fight for a while. The fight doesn't progress in the next episode either. I hope we still remember it when the show finally cuts back to their duel again. Oh, and Larhart makes a pretty cool arrival.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I've said before how much I admire Leona's character and her leadership abilities. She truly shines here as she inspires everyone to follow her plan given to her by Yvonne, except for when Dai says, like, yeah, you know what, never mind, I'm still going to charge. But anywho, I really loved her short little speech. I was genuinely moved by it. She's always so much more cool-headed than everyone around her and is great at taking control of any situation. I also enjoyed how Mam is resistant to Leona at first, but then apologizes in the end. Mam can be a little stubborn sometimes, but it's nice to see her come around on what Leona is trying to do. I also really enjoyed seeing the little flashbacks of Yvonne's party doing what Pop and Mam are going to do for Dai. It will be great to eventually read the prequel manga and see all of that fleshed out more. I don't have a lot to say about this episode, but overall, I did really enjoy seeing Yvonne's intellect at work and how he prepared for this moment.
I can see you enjoying that as well. Then we have episode 83, Baran's Last Will. We start with Hyunkel waking up after being healed by Brokina, who healed Him's wounds as well. However, Brokina gives the bad news that Hyunkel will never be in any shape to fight again. Before they all take off to the inner sanctum of the palace, Chu decides to make Him one of his Beast King commandos over Him's objections. In the White Garden, Larhart pledges his loyalty to Dai based on instructions that Baran left him in a letter, his will. Larhart uses his speed to show Dai that he's more than capable of dealing with Mistfern, while Dai heads towards King Vern. Dai and Leona start to climb the stairs to the Tower of Supremacy as King Vern tries to intimidate Dai. Our hero resists Vern's taunts, but gives Leona his dagger so that she can protect herself. As they continue up the stairs, mysterious tentacles capture Leona and drag her into the tower. I didn't think this was that kind of story. Dai follows and discovers a huge one-eyed creature in the center of the tower, and then the episode ends.
Oh, Japan and your tentacles. There are some really touching character moments in this episode. The first is Larhart appreciating Baran and all he did for him, culminating in the Dragon Rider becoming a follower of Dai. The second is Leona being moved by Dai's gift of the Knife of Popnica. Not so much the gift itself, but Dai's reasoning behind it, of course. Leona realizes that Dai isn't really a boy adventurer anymore and has truly grown up in the time since they met each other. Dai's comment about the scorpion from Germline Island giving him nightmares was great. That scorpion gave me nightmares as well. I don't know about you.
Yikes.
Yes. As far as the end of the episode, it's a nice change of pace that the creature inside the Tower of Supremacy is not a part of King Vern's plan. Hey, Vern! Burn! No trap or crafty plan this time, just a strange creature that has awoken and decided to act on its own. My favorite part of this episode is Heem interacting with all of his new friends. First, he gets compared to a metal or king metal slime, which is fantastic, and then he becomes part of the Beast King Commandos. The whole sequence is so much fun to watch.
Totally. I also greatly enjoyed the Beast King Commandos scene. We get to see Master Brokina being silly and maintaining that he's just Mr. Beast while he wears the silly ghost costume. Heem's reaction when they compare him to a metal slime is hilarious. His face looks so goofy. Heem is a good friend too, insisting on carrying Hyunkel since Heem is the one who hurt him. They're best buds now. And then Chu paints the number 12 on Heem's chest, and it's all so funny. So definitely a highlight. Larhart's dedication to Braun and Dai is certainly touching. On a more serious note, Braun's will asked Larhart to support Dai because Dai will be able to change the human race someday. His son had given him some optimism, we can see. Dai's expression also shows that he misses his dad, which is touching. Oh, and it certainly looks like Larhart will help turn the tide against Mistfern, but we'll have to wait until the next episode to see how that fight will go. I always enjoy the romance elements when they pop up in the show, so I dug Dai and Leona's scene as well. A lot of the time, their relationship is portrayed as a platonic friendship, but every now and then, something reminds us that there's an attraction there. This time, Leona hugs Dai and the two become quite red. If this was less of a shonen story, they would probably kiss at that point, but we'll have to make do with a hug. Oh, and then Leona gets kidnapped right away. That's a good place for the episode to end, really.
Agreed. Now, on to Rooming with a Gamer Gal. First up is Server 9. Christmas is soon. This chapter starts with Powder enjoying the Dragon Quest X Christmas event with other members of the Heaven Slime team. During this time, Miyako arrives home but seems to be in a foul mood. After Satsuki prods her to see what's wrong, Miyako confesses that her ex-boyfriend has contacted her. She explains about their past relationship and how it ended. She's very mad because her ex is trying to get back with her in the most rude way possible, taunting her for being single. Back when they were dating, she wanted her ex to try Dragon Quest X with her, but he refused. He was not interested in trying anything she liked, so the relationship fell apart. Miyako and Satsuki decide to spend Christmas together in Dragon Quest X with their other Heaven Slime teammates. Later that night, Miyako cries while going to sleep, as it's been a very emotional day. Satsuki hears the crying from his room and decides to pick up a Christmas cake to cheer her up.
I love Christmas stories. That element of this chapter is fun, though we mostly get Christmas imagery in the first 2 pages rather than throughout the chapter. The story is more about Miyako's situation, though perhaps the holiday is making things worse for her. We learned that she had a long-distance relationship and that it lasted 4 years. Given her presumably young age, that means that Miyako probably doesn't have much dating experience beyond the ex-boyfriend that she talks about in this chapter. That could be good for compatibility with Satsuki since he has no dating experience at all. They're also both into Dragon Quest X, which puts Satsuki leagues ahead of the past guy from a compatibility standpoint. Of course, any romance between these two is going to be a very slow burn. The chapter ends with Miyako crying, and I feel sorry for her. I'm glad that Satsuki wants to help. The next chapter doesn't deal with Miyako being sad or Satsuki trying to cheer her up, so I guess a little time passes between them.
I thought this was a great chapter. Breaking up with someone over Dragon Quest X? I mean, if that's not reasonable, I don't know what is. Kidding aside, I can see why her relationship didn't work out if her boyfriend never tried to do anything with her like that. I mean, at least give it a try, right? Especially since it's something they could do together in their long-distance setup. Funny that Satsuki still refers to Miyako as Goro, even when addressing her in real life, even though he knows her real name now. This is also a very interesting chapter that deals with Japanese Christmas traditions. I had known from before that the holiday is less about spending time with family and more about dating. Apparently, it's a really popular holiday to spend with your significant other. It's also a Japanese tradition to get a big old bucket of KFC on Christmas Day. And if you look into the origins of this, it's hilarious. One of the executives for KFC Japan was able to convince everyone that having fried chicken on Christmas Day was an American tradition, and they just ran with it. The Christmas cake concept was fun too. In America, you might see fruit cakes during Christmas time. In Japan, it's typically a sponge cake topped with whipped cream and strawberries. While researching this, I saw that it used to be common to call a woman after 25 years old and unmarried an unsold Christmas cake, making the evil comparison that no one wants a Christmas cake after Christmas Day and no one wants a single woman after 25. I was initially shocked, but not ultimately surprised to see that. Thankfully, it's not a common term anymore. This issue references a Dragon Quest X item called a gesture book. Apparently, you can get these books in the game to give your character different emotes, such as giving the peace sign or a thumbs up. I wish they had explained this more in the manga itself. They usually are pretty good about explaining game mechanics for people who don't know about these types of things. Getting back to the story at hand, I think Satsuki handled himself very well here, and after hearing Miyako crying, changed his mind about getting a Christmas cake because he had thought about it before and he said, nah, it's whatever. But then when he heard her crying, he's like, you know what? I'll get a Christmas cake and hopefully that will help cheer her up. So that was nice.
Oh, hey, Pendy.
Yes.
I got a gesture for you.
Oh, no.
Anyway.
Thank God our listeners can't see that.
That's true. They can't. It could be anything. So then we have server 10. Let's make an alt. We start here with Miyako enjoying a bath and thinking about creating an alt character in Dragon Quest. Later, she discusses the idea with Satsuki, and they reflect on how many people in their Heaven Slime team have alts for various reasons. Miyako tells Satsuki that she is considering making a female puppet character, and that gets Satsuki really excited. He hasn't had the chance to interact and adventure that much with female characters in the past. However, when Miyako sits down to make her alt, she just can't get the right look that she wants, so she gives up for now.
This is by far the funniest server or chapter I have read so far. I kept laughing at Miyako and Satsuki's interactions with each other. Miyako thinking to herself it was creepy that all Satsuki's characters were female, and the running cringe counting joke. So very funny. Also, that one guy in their Heaven Slime team certainly is very hardcore about the game. As they explained it, he would play the game with 2 accounts at the same time, one on his Wii U and one on his PC. I'm sure people in real life do this as well. I would bet money on it. This guy they reference in the manga has a fascination with ogres too. And actually, I think I'm with him there. I might be trying this game soon, and I'm thinking I'll probably end up with a female ogre for my character.
Alt characters? This chapter starts with a shower scene, man. Of course, the book isn't trying to be sexy, so there's no fan service. But it's a big change in tone from the downer ending of the previous chapter. Miyako's happy face in the bathtub is very cute. The last chapter mostly dealt with real life issues, so this time we get a story that's entirely focused on the game. The author does a good job of portraying a natural conversation about alts before moving on to Miyako trying to create one. On the subject of alts, it seems that Dragon Quest X characters can specialize in one specific type of crafting, so alternate characters are useful for doing other forms of crafting. On a personal note, on the rare occasions when I play an MMO, I can barely keep up with one character, so my alts tend to be underdeveloped. It's funny that Satsuki and Miyako both think that their guildmate is weird for only making ogre characters. It seems that he is losing out on the unique story parts that the other races get in Dragon Quest X, but otherwise I don't see anything odd about favoring one race over the others. Satsuki likes poppets way too much after all. I also enjoyed Miyako teasing Satsuki about being creepy and cringe. She seems to be saying it affectionately for the most part. He's definitely a big gaming nerd, but not that much more than she is.
Finally, we have a little bit of news when it comes to the Dai manga. I can't reveal my sources, but apparently the US version of the Dai manga did not necessarily stop running because of poor sales.
Your secret rumors claim that issues with the licensing agreement came up that haven't been resolved.
It's a shame, too. Like we've reported before, the manga has had a complete run or continues to come out in other countries. I hope Viz is eventually able to resolve these issues over the license.
I hope so, too, because I'd love to start buying the books again.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, we wrap up this episode of Alltrades DQ Media Abbey. If you want to prepare for our next episode, be sure to watch episodes 84 through 87 of Dragon Quest The Adventure of Dai and read chapters 11 and 12 of Rooming with a Gamer Gal. You can watch the Dai episodes subtitled on Crunchyroll or dubbed on Hulu, and Rooming with a Gamer Gal is available through the Manga Up app.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't challenge your hard-earned gold to a duel when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's just completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, bottomless bag, treasure chest, or Wii U, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything extra when making other Dragon Quest purchases, including HD 2D Dragon Quest 3 Remake.
Oh yeah, that's a good thing to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have a Slime Time t-shirt that was designed by our resident artist, Dwayne. See the link for it in the show notes.
As part of the Slime Time Extended Universe, or STU, you can direct comments or questions for the podcast on X and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EastXTwitch. Come watch me play a variety of games every Saturday, kids.
Join in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums and Discord, and the Dragon Questers and Slime Time Facebook groups.
We'd like to thank everyone that made this possible, including Pendy, Woodis, the Dragon's Den, and Santa Claus. That Red One movie looks ridiculous, but Santa's still a badass to me, and I wish it was Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho. Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
We'll catch you later, everybody. Don't hate, appreciate.
Time to zoom on out of here.
So cringe.
13.
Hey, tell me where you're going. when you go off alone. Oh, oh, oh. Sometimes all a friend can do is wait and watch for you to come back home. Hey, tell me where you're going when you go off alone. Oh, this was a story based on honesty and courage from the start. We're together, I thought we could make it work. On the horizon, something shining, and everyone can see it, and I'm feeling confident. It must be what we've been looking for. And now the sky's opened up, the wind is picking up again, and I'm watching for a bird flying off. It sounds like the future's lighting up. Don't you know it's all connected like a journey that's...
This is slime time! General Flazzard here! Beware my five-finger flares!